Welcome, the Cinco de Cuatro. We are a day early, but we always like to get a head start here at the Obama White House.
And there it is. Yes, celebrating Cinco de Cuatro. My goodness. You don't miss him, do you? No, neither do I. It is Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Porto, whatever you want to call it. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. Thank you for being here. Exciting times we live in. Very exciting times. There's so much to get to today. And there are questions. What is trolling and what is real? Is the president trolling, or is he actually serious about it? I have questions. And if he is serious about it, can he do it? Many, many things on the table today. On this Monday, May 5th, it's not really a holiday in Mexico. This was a drinking holiday that America forced Mexico to celebrate. Like St. Patrick's really wasn't a big holiday until it became a big holiday in America, a moneymaker in America, if you will. So Cinco de Mayo, a lot of people will be drinking if they didn't drink all weekend, which they might. And as long as you can handle it, I'm fine with that. I'm okay if you're able to handle your alcohol. As I said, we will ask the questions. Today we will ask the questions if what the president is putting forth is actually a real idea or is he trolling? For example, the president talking about turning Alcatraz Island into a prison once again. It's been a tourist attraction for a while. And there have been myriad movies made about it. The Birdman of Alcatraz, The Rock, starring Nicolas Cage, of course. But is the president serious about turning Alcatraz Island into a prison again? Nancy Pelosi said, well, you know, it's been shut down for decades and it's run down. It's in disrepair. And I thought, are you talking about yourself or are you talking about Alcatraz? But the opportunity to build kind of a new super max on Alcatraz Island, could you just take the structure and refit it? Or would you have to just demolish it and then rebuild? And, of course, then the construction on an island brings an entirely new set of challenges. But what do you think? Do you think the president's serious about it? That's really kind of interesting to me. I'm fascinated by the move. The president returned to the White House last night and actually talked about reopening Alcatraz. And about what triggered it, where the idea came from. This was outside of the White House, of course.
Where did you get the idea for reopening Alcatraz?
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because the judges, so many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally. That would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, you know, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, you know, it's got quite a history, frankly.
A symbol of law and order, and maybe that's where you put the exit trials for anyone if they are forced to do these trials. We will see if the Supreme Court forces that to happen. But I thought it was fascinating. Is it real, or is this meant to keep the media spinning? Because the media, they keep spinning on certain topics. Now, the Kristen Welker interview, which we'll have to dive into at great length because it really was fascinating to me, and the constant interruptions from Welker of the president, and the media has latched onto, almost universally on the left side of the mainstream media, has latched onto one single moment from this. And they are obsessing about it, saying Donald Trump doesn't know if he has to uphold the Constitution. Well, they're saying you took an oath to defend and protect the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. How do you not know? They slice one moment, and this is the gotcha moment that they're constantly looking for. The left does this all the time. They're looking for one little moment that they can do the aha. And I don't know was the aha. But was it real? Was it actually that moment? I'm not sure the president was exactly saying what the left is now interpreting. And, of course, it's already been turned into a poll at CNN, and we'll get to the polling data on that as well. I thought the other important issue that came, well, there were several that came out of this interview. The third term question. The president was asked about it, and I thought he handled it quite well, in case you missed it.
The Trump organization is selling hats that say Trump 2028.
Yeah.
Are you seriously considering a third term, Mr. President, even though it's prohibited by the Constitution? Or is this about staying politically viable?
I will say this. So many people want me to do it. Mm-hmm. I have never had requests so strong as that. But it's something that, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to do. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's constitutional that they're not allowing you to do it or anything else, but there are many people selling the 2028 hat. But this is not something I'm looking to do.
Now, I'm stopping him right there because if you really want to be honest, that's what he said. This is not something I'm looking to do. He's 78 years old, about to have a birthday in just about a month and a week. Do you really think he intends on running for a third term? He just said to you, this is not something I'm looking to do. So what do you want to do, Mr. President?
Looking to have 4 great years and turn it over to somebody, ideally a great Republican to carry it forward. But I think we're going to have 4 years, and I think 4 years is plenty of time to do something really spectacular.
The Constitution is serious about this.
Yeah, she's going to keep going after it. Interrupt us. Interrupt us, interrupt us, interrupt us. That's all she's doing. Really interesting. And in terms of a third term, well, like I said, CNN is already running polling on this. Yes, the condition known as Harry Enton, which if you have it, there may not be any cure for it. But the Harry Enton condition is already asking people, CNN's already asking people, should Donald Trump run for a third term? Should Trump run for a third term? Tell us. And of course, the majority of people are saying no. No, no, no. And I do believe that's because we as conservatives ultimately respect the law, unless the law is crazy. But I think Donald Trump is just absolutely trolling when he says, well, there's a lot of people asking me to do it. Of course there are. There are people that appreciate, I love the president. I think he's doing a great job. But I also appreciate and support the 2 terms. And I wish they had term limits for every one of those people in the House and the Senate. That's my opinion. But do you think the president is trolling? And if so, on what? Is he trolling on Alcatraz? Is he trolling on third term? The president also announced via Truth Social post that he wants to put 100% tariff on every foreign movie that comes into this country. Does that include television shows coming into the country? And how do you enforce that? That's another question I have. 888-630-9625 is the number, of course, here at the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka with you today. Chris just has a day off. We will try and get to all of this. There's so many questions. I do think we all are in agreement, or as the uneducated people like to say, in agreeance. People do say that, and it's not a word. We are all in agreement that when the president posted on his Truth Social page the image of himself as the Pope, he was trolling. But the humorless scolds at SNL couldn't believe it, and they lost their minds. That was definitely trolling. But the Alcatraz, it's an interesting proposal. I think we should discuss it. JP is in Dumfries and calling the Chris Plante Show. JP, what's your take on this, sir? Welcome.
Well, I think they should leave the prison like it is, except for the security part of it.
So just keep it where it was, like 1960
same way it is now.
Yeah.
Leave the old bunks in there. Let them lay on the old bunks. It's not supposed to be paradise. It's supposed to be jail.
But what about all
they're being punished?
JP, what about all the humanitarian changes we've made with cable television and better libraries than most public schools have?
Yeah, that's what they can do, is stick that up their nose.
Thank you for saying nose. You had me worried there for a minute. So you're just saying upgrade the security, but it really hasn't been operating as a prison for a while. We'd have to do a lot of infrastructure updates to get the right communications and cameras.
Leave them in the dark. That's where they belong in the first place.
Well, that's an interesting take. Have you ever been there, JP? Have you ever visited Alcatraz?
I lived in Santa Rosa, California for 25 years. So I know all about Alcatraz. I've been to San Francisco a lot. I've been out and visited the place. It isn't that bad of repair. It might be old, but it's still viable. It didn't look that bad in the movie, and they didn't dress it up for it.
This is what's interesting. This is where I think we're seeing the benefit of a great real estate developer looking at Alcatraz and seeing what it could be and how it could be either repurposed or rebuilt to its former greatness. And that's part of what Donald Trump does. So you're all in. And you don't think he's trolling? Do you think he's serious about this? I guess so. JP wants us to use Alcatraz for its original purpose. I guess he doesn't think the president is trolling. I wonder if he is kind of distracting the media a little bit. But I also look at Alcatraz and I think, how are you going to do it? How are you going to get it done? Could it host all of the people he's getting ready to deport? No, because you'd have to put him on a boat and get him in. You couldn't just fly him straight out of there. It'd be really interesting. Let's grab one more before we take a break. Rick is in Arkansas. Hello, Rick. Welcome to the Chris Plante Show.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm good, sir. You have a thought on all of this?
I do.
Uh-oh. They got to Rick. They hit him up with... we lost you. You dropped out. You went through a dead cell. What were you saying?
Oh, so Trump's amazing. The thing that blew us all away was that speed at the beginning. He needs to create, with executive order, a special court and appoint 100 judges that try 10 cases a day, and we blow through this thing so fast that the Democrats can't even keep up. Those Democratic lawyers will be sitting there spinning their heads trying to keep up with them. And then we deport these things as fast as we can possibly get them out of here.
Well, I don't know about creating a special court. We have to see how that can be done. I do agree that the speed at which the first 100 days was running needs to be continued. And if we're to believe Steve Bannon, he says double down, move faster, even faster. We'll get into this. This is a very interesting thought. The Florida governor had a thought on what to do with all of the people that ICE is rounding up. And he has a way to involve local law enforcement. We'll talk about it just around the corner. 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. It's Opelka in for Plante on the Chris Plante Show.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris.
It is 25 minutes after the hour. Mike Opelka in for my buddy Chris Plante on the Cinco de Mayo. Cinco de Porto, as one person was saying earlier today. And we asked, is Donald Trump trolling when he suggests reopening Alcatraz as a prison? Really interesting. Bill is in the Beltway here. Bill, welcome, sir. You have a take on this?
Hi, Michael. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear. Sounded great.
Great. Thank you. And thank you for stepping in for Chris today. I always enjoy your fresh perspective. Michael, I'm an architect, and I'm in the daily realm on this stuff. Alcatraz is a National Trust property. It's a historic property. It was declared that, and the National Trust for Historic Preservation, which is under the purveyance of the Department of Interior. So any additions, modifications, even changing the color of the bars over the windows needs to go through a whole extensive process of a review by the Department of Interior. And I read this as soon as I saw Alcatraz. I said, this is as much about probably drilling into Department of Interior and how they oversee all these properties. And again, there's a lot of delay in redevelopment of all kinds of things when properties are put on the National Trust. Sometimes it's a great thing, and we have some beautiful restored buildings, and sometimes people use buildings to prevent other things from happening, whether it's a shopping center or reopening a prison. And that was my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. That's interesting. It's part of the Department of the Interior. It comes under the purview of the Department of the Interior, and I think we have a pretty Trump-friendly guy in that department, don't we? Yeah. Doug Burgum. I don't think Mr. Trump would have any problem getting anything done there. Another Bill calling in, checking in Virginia. Hello, Bill. You have a thought on who could run in 2028?
Sure. Michael, how are you today?
I'm great, sir. Thanks for being here.
Hey, well, there are other people with the last name Trump. And it's not a Trump Jr. or, one of the kids can run, and it's still Trump 2028, right? Kind of a third term.
Oh, that's so funny. That completely got past me. All the people that are selling Trump 28 hats, 2028 hats, they don't say Donald Trump. They just say Trump 2028. Yeah. You could pick from 4 that are currently age eligible to run for the White House. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good, Bill. Thank you. I love this audience. You guys are always on it. Fantastic stuff. Yeah, you can see we've already opened up more than one can of worms today. So much to get to. And we will welcome your opinions on all of it. 888-630-9625. We're going to dive deeper into the Kristen Welker interview. Plus, the president wants to cut funding from PBS. Wait till you hear the arguments they're pulling out. They're already playing the children. The children will be hurt. How dare you? It's the Chris Plant Show. The Chris Plant Show on this Monday, Cinco de Mayo. We are going to have a Cinco de Mayo update at the start of the second hour of the program today. There's some big news happening in major cities around the country as it relates to Cinco de Mayo, although some of it is also Bravo Sierra. So we're mixing talk show metaphors here, I guess. It's Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. Honored to be here. Happy to be here. Did you have a great weekend? I hope you did. I watched the Kentucky Derby, did not wager on it because I was too confused, although I am going to repeat what many noticed. I noticed it. I'm sure you noticed it. Many in the conservative sphere noticed it. Journalism lost to sovereignty. How about that? Sovereignty chased down journalism for the win. And it really is amazing. The other sidebar to the Kentucky Derby story is the absolutely bizarre reality that every horse that ran in the Derby is a descendant of Secretariat. Is that not amazing? Secretariat won the Derby in 1973. It was an astounding race. If you hadn't seen it, it's out there on the internet, so you can find it. But after all those years, if you search through all the bloodlines, I guess you can do a 23andMe on the horses and find out they're all connected to Secretariat. It was a spectacular race, and congratulations if you won money on it. It's kind of exciting moment. And now on to the Preakness and the Belmont, et cetera, et cetera. We were talking at the opening of the program about the president and some of the things that he made statements about this weekend, one of which was, hey, let's take Alcatraz and stop it from just sitting there and rotting away, even though it's a tourist attraction, and let's repurpose it to its original purpose as a prison. And I wondered, is he trolling or is it real? Because I'm looking at that building. I'm looking at some of the video that's from inside of there. Certainly the prison updates in terms of technology have to be made. But is Donald Trump trolling? Because there were a few other things that he said this past week that one might wonder, can he do that, or is he just trying to get the media to chase its tail? I know some of it is to get them to chase their tail. Absolutely. Chris is in Marshall, Virginia. Chris, you have a thought on President Trump and some of the things he's saying? Is he trolling? Is he serious?
Oh, Chris, Miko, it's calling from the front line of the heartland, man. And I've always maintained that one of his biggest strengths, his entire career, not just as a politician, but throughout his entire adulthood, has been his ability to be an illusionist, kind of like, one of the great magicians. He will intentionally create a distraction. Watch my hands here while something's happening over there. And I think this is just another one of those. And I mean, it's one of his greatest strengths, and it's one that I hope that the opposition never realizes. It's not really trolling. It's far more complicated than that. It's far more nuanced than trolling.
I think that's an accurate point. We talk about the way the president changes subjects during a discussion or during a commencement address or during a State of the Union address. He calls it the weave, and he ultimately comes back to the original topic. But in the interim, he takes you on a different journey, which may take you off whatever intended path you were trying to get on. And
it's often intentionally outrageous or provocative. He has recognized, he realizes, and he masters the power of provocation.
That's interesting. And if you read Art of the Deal in one of the chapters, I forget, it's one of the early chapters, he talks about negotiation. And one of the suggestions he gave in Art of the Deal was the minute you meet somebody for a negotiation, you immediately kind of pull back and say, "Whoa, your breath is terrible. Do you want a mint?" And what he's done is taken you completely out of your game, and the negotiation is now on hold because you're worried, my God, does my breath stink?
I read that when I was a teenager, his book. I read that book, and I have implemented that. Many of my friends and frenemies and outright enemies will recognize that tactic as I have implemented it throughout my adult life.
It's such a simple but great negotiating tool to put your opponent on their heels right away. And it's right there in the Art of the Deal. It is, and he's continuing it to this day. Chris, great analysis of the president. I think you're spot on. He does have his plan, and if he's getting attacked, he finds a way to distract. Look, there's a white squirrel over there. Have you ever seen that? And there he goes. They go off to chase the squirrel. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. We are asking about Alcatraz. Is this the right idea? It is a tourist attraction. I know several of my friends have gone to see it. I have not. Is it a good idea? Curry in Albany, Georgia, is calling us. Hello, Curry. Welcome.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. You have thoughts on this? Is it trolling? You think this is a good idea?
I think a better idea would be to house all the corrupt Democrats, their judges, and their attorney generals.
Well, now, wait a minute. Do you think we should offer to sell it to the DNC as a resort? And we could put air quotes around the word resort to the DNC, and maybe it's their new headquarters, and let all their AGs be. It's called Sorosville. Maybe that's what we call it.
I like that. Also, for the Democrats, it could be their next Airbnb.
Oh, it's a Democrat Airbnb, Alcatraz Island. For those of you who are minimalists, who really don't believe in the opulence and the success of capitalism, we have a new place for you. It's Sorosville. It's the Democrat Airbnb. I like it, Curry. I think you've directed me to something here. And we might need every single space there, because they do have a lot of those corrupt AGs running around. And there are a whole bunch of Democrats that are showing up at Bernie Sanders and AOC events, and they would all be welcome too. Maybe that's where you have. Look, here's the idea, Curry. We just stumbled into this. You hold the next Bernie Sanders, AOC, kill the oligarchs rally, whatever they're calling it, the madness that they have, at Alcatraz, and then you cut off all the access. There's no helicopters, no boats can come in, and they're just there. It's the ultimate episode of Survivor. There we go. Simple. Thank you, Curry. Daniel is in D.C. weighing in on Alcatraz. You have a thought on this, Daniel? Daniel, you with me? I thought I heard Daniel on line 5. Daniel, hang on. We'll see if we can straighten out your button and maybe punch your button and make it work. We're talking about Donald Trump speculating that we should take Alcatraz and repurpose it or bring it back to its original purpose. Daniel, your thoughts on Alcatraz?
Hey, Buenos Cinco de Mayo, Senor Opelka. Not a bad idea. Alcatraz, I visited it, and according to our tour guides, is the safest place in the entire state of California during an earthquake. It survived the 1909, it survived the 64, and it survived the Loma Prieta quake in 1989 that shook the World Series between the Giants and the Oakland A's, even though it collapsed the 880 and the San Francisco Bay Bridge and all other concepts. It didn't scratch Alcatraz, didn't touch it.
Wow. And
I went to Alcatraz after all three of those events had taken place because I was there in 2000. But you can't get away from it. And the two that they say escaped, they've never found. And there ain't no way you're going to be unfound for 50-some-odd years. You're going to surface somewhere, somehow. You're not going to get off the island. And as the other caller said, it is it's a prison. It's not a country club. And, hey, you want the lap of luxury? Live like a human being. You want to be a jerk? We got a place for you. And as far as Trump trolling, I agree with the other caller about him being an illusion. But every time he says something or wipes his forehead or whatever the case may be, it drives the left nuts because they want to use it as a talking point on how unhinged he is when he's actually showing everybody else, even those that range from remedially educated to higher educated, that the media and the left in and of itself are the unhinged. Again, the Russian playbook. Blame the people who are doing the exact same thing that you are so that they're not paying attention to you.
It's good stuff. Thank you, Daniel. Excellent thoughts. I did not know that Alcatraz had survived without any problems some of the biggest earthquakes that California has experienced. I got to take one more call about Alcatraz because I think this is going to be on everybody's lips. Let's face it, Alcatraz is a brand. When you think about the perfect prison, everybody defaults to Alcatraz. Nobody's going, oh, yeah, Supermax out in Utah or wherever the hell it is. It's Alcatraz. Michael in Lake Ridge, Virginia. Hello, Michael.
Good morning. Yeah, as I told the screener, I'd visited Alcatraz, and it's a great place to visit, and it's a great experience with the boat ride there and back. There's a lot of history to the island, and there is I guess at one time Native Americans had occupied the island and had a protest there, and there's some graffiti and evidence from that. And I thought it was going to be a lot bigger, a much larger building, based on the film Escape from Alcatraz that was filmed there. And they have a bookstore, and they sell books from prisoners that spent time there.
That's kind of interesting, because we had the movie The Birdman of Alcatraz, too, and The Rock and Escape from Alcatraz. I wonder, Michael, maybe Donald Trump in his developer mind looked at Alcatraz and said, that would really be the perfect West Coast Mar-a-Lago. We could just make it a luxury property, and maybe one of the centimillionaires that are out there, billionaires out there, would be interested in picking it up. And then they said, no, you can't do it. It's owned by this the Department of the Interior. You'd have to use it again with the government. Well, what if we turn it into a prison again? Maybe we'll see that. I don't know. But I've not been. Now it's on my bucket list for things to visit. And as far as Native Americans, there was a time where Native Americans were taking over a lot of American monuments. The Statue of Liberty had a protest. I think that's why you can't go up in the torch anymore, was one of the protests that happened there. Very interesting. A lot of history in Alcatraz, but is it trolling? Is the president trolling, or is he serious about bringing Alcatraz back to its glory days? We'll continue with this discussion, some of the other highlights from Donald Trump's really interesting interview, I thought, with Kristen Welker. It was only interesting because Trump took control. She was an interrupting jackwagon, if you ask me. You want to join the conversation? 888-630-9625. Why are men shaving their eyelashes? I don't know anyone that's doing this, but according to the left side of the mainstream media, it's a thing. It's a fashion thing. Shaving your eyelashes? Are you nuts? We'll get into it. It's Opelka in for Plant on the Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show on this Monday, Cinco de Mayo. We have a Cinco de Mayo report that we will talk about to kick off next hour. There is some Bravo Sierra about Cinco de Mayo and some of the things that you're hearing from some of the major metropolitan areas. As I said, it's Michael Pelkin for my friend Chris Plant. Pausing the politics for just a second because I need to talk to the gentleman out there. What the heck is in your mind? What are you doing? Men are shaving off their eyelashes. Can we stop this? We're now being told this is a trend. Why is this a trend? Why are men shaving off their eyelashes? To look more masculine? Do we not realize that eyelashes have a purpose? Eyelashes are there to stop dust and dirt from getting into your eyes. They also prompt your blink reflex. So what are you doing? There are even people going to the barbershop, to the salon, to have their eyelashes, not eyebrow. We're not talking about eyebrows. We're not talking about the unibrow being opened up. And somebody cutting a little channel between the eyes above the nose there. We've all seen it. You know what I'm talking about. But it's the eyelashes. The TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, I guess, are doing this. It's for health. Your eyes have eyelashes for a reason. And they grow and shed and regrow over time. What are you doing? Masculine energy. You know how you look masculine? It's not cutting off your eyelash. Because you know a bunch of idiots will try and do it themselves to save the money. And that's going to be even more dangerous. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. We talked about this hour. We talked about some of the things that the president brought up and whether or not he's trolling. Of course, we talked about the 100% tariff on movies not made in America. We discussed briefly Alcatraz and the president's wish for Alcatraz Island to once again become a prison. It's under the purview of the Department of the Interior as a historic site, so that would take some finagling to make that happen. And I wonder if it's actually a real idea that the president's up to. I wonder if he's trolling. Nick is in Virginia. Nick, you have a thought on the president and the Alcatraz idea?
Yes, Mike, I do. I think we should forget about Alcatraz, keep that as it is, a bookstore and a tourist site, and let's build a big prison in Greenland. And then we don't even need to have a fence around it. You know, if they want to go out and just walk away, good luck.
Wow, so you're saying that the president, who still, during the interview with Kristen Welker yesterday on Meet the Press, he did address the issue of Greenland as well as Canada as a 51st state. We'll get to that later in the show. But you're saying, oh, well, it's already built in. It's an island already. But wouldn't Hank Johnson be worried, Nick, if we put that many people on an island like Greenland that it could tip over and then all those prisoners would swim away?
Well, I'm sure he'll have some concern, but we can do a feasibility study.
That's it. It'll be a 20-year government feasibility study. Just hearing from the architect earlier in the show who said, look, if you want to touch anything on Alcatraz, there has to be a government study because it's part of the National Trust. Well, that's really kind of crazy. But interesting thought. Take the island of Greenland and we make it into not just a part of the United States in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a protectorate, whether it's a colony, if you will, whatever you want to call it. And then we put a big prison there. Maybe there's others out there, too. Thank you, Dick. Richard in Manassas, Virginia, wants to jump on this island idea. Richard, what do you think? What's your idea?
Hola, Miguel. Happy Feliz Cinco de Mayo. I think that the southern tip of South Padre Island, Texas, should be turned into a prison because you put all of the illegal aliens there, and if they escape, then they are escaping into Mexico because it is the very southern tip of Texas, and they would actually be swimming into Mexico if they escaped.
That's interesting. Thank you, Richard. Another island suggestion. Forget Alcatraz Island. Maybe the South Padre Island in the Gulf of America, in case you were wondering where it's located. Yes, South Padre Island in the Gulf of America. All right, first hour in the books. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant. Cinco de Mayo update just around the corner on the Chris Plant Show.